Hey guys, it's me. It's Queen O Said Her Real, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Asking Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Okay, so if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and pass it on to somebody else who may like it as well. Also, if you have time, I would love to see your comments in the comment section. So please drop us a comment if you can. Now, I just wanted to tell you guys something really fast. This is a really quick video. Well, I don't know, because once I start talking, I always think they're going to be quick. Somebody asked me a very general question. She asked me, what exactly is gaslighting? She's been hearing this term a lot online, and she's like, I don't really get what exactly it is. Can you explain what it means to gaslight? In 1938, if I'm not mistaken, there was a play called Gaslight. And in the play, a man was trying to drive his wife crazy. Basically, he was trying to make his wife believe she was crazy. And she wasn't. There was nothing wrong with her. But he was using, manipulation tactics to make her think she was crazy. So the term gaslighting is when a partner or somebody that you know, a family member even, a frenemy, I would call them, tries to make you believe that you're crazy. And they do this in a number of different ways. They do it by pretending like you didn't say what you said. They do it by pretending that something, like for instance, moving an object, like your laptop, for example, they move it from the table to the dining room, and then you're like, wait a minute, wasn't that on the table? And they're like, huh? No, it was never on the table. What are you talking about? You're crazy. They say things like that to you, but they did move. They did move the laptop. They're just fucking with your head. When I was a kid, we called that playing with your mind. Sometimes a guy or a girl would start to talk to you, and it wasn't because they really liked you, but it was because they were playing with your mind. It's just an abuser's manipulation tactic. It's a very cruel thing to do to another person. And it's called by psychologists gaslighting because it happened in that movie. So some of you may have been in situations where a person was gaslighting you, trying to make you think you were crazy, telling you you didn't say things that you did say, or certain things didn't happen a certain kind of way. Verbal and emotional and physical and, abusers have a tendency to use this. This is another one of the tricks in their arsenal. They make you question your own sanity by trying to tell you that reality didn't happen the way that it happened, even though it did happen that way. And after a while, you're sitting there like, did I move the laptop? Like after a while, you do start to question, like, did I do this? And like, I remember I was watching a perfect example of this, but this was like a playful kind of way. I was watching yesterday on Facebook, this guy and his girlfriend were walking through the store, and he told her she had a spider on her shoulder. And she was like, oh my God, get it. And he was like, nah, I'm allergic to spiders, yo, shorty. He was like on his, like that. And she's like, oh my God. And she's smacking it and spinning around. And then this woman comes up the aisle and she's like looking at her. And she's like, do you see a spider? And the lady's like, no. Like the lady is like, what are you doing? She's looking at her like, what the hell is wrong with you? But he was just pranking her, making her think a spider was on her because she's scared of spiders. But that's a classic example of gaslighting. Even though in this case it's playful and, he was just messing with her, that's still something that an abuser would have been doing that, but would not have let her find out that it really was never a spider there. It would have been just to cause anger, anxiety, fear, because she's scared of them. So it would have just caused that in her. And he never even would have told her or did around where other people could tell her that there wasn't really a spider. You see? So this is just one way. It's different ways that abusers think up to make you think that you're crazy. Another thing they do is they always swear that whatever you say, you're, totally wrong about it. Voldemort was a classic abuser, and he used a lot of these little tactics and things. But at the time, I didn't know none of this stuff. I knew some of it from reading and from psychology classes, but a great deal of this I had never actually seen another person do to somebody. So he would do things like, I would tell him that, you know, something was problematic or that he did something or something along those lines, and then he would come back and try to flip it. Like one time I said to him that he was verbally and emotionally abusive. I actually printed out a chart that was the cycles of abuse. I'll never forget it. And I printed it out and handed it to him and explained to him how his behavior was emotionally and verbally and mentally abusive. And that it probably, if it wasn't intentional, it was still going on. And he sat there. In that instance, he was very shocked because he didn't expect me to say this or do this. I didn't tell him. I just waited till he came over and popped it on him. And the next day, he came back with, well, people always do these kind of things. You do these kind of things too. And it's not always abuse. And people always think that things are abuse that aren't abuse. So he tried to make me believe that what I'm looking at in black and white is not what's going on. This is not abuse, and it's not what he's doing. And if he is doing it, it's not abuse. That's just what people say. You see? And a lot of times these types of abusers will say things like that to you. And most of us know that they're full of shit, but we let them get away with it. We either question ourselves because it's working, it is making us think, am I crazy? Or we let them slide with it because we're like, okay, and let's move on. Because that's basically what I did with it. I didn't go there with him. I didn't keep arguing the point. I was just like, okay, whatever. You know, because I knew right then and there that he was not going to admit that that was what he was doing. 9 times out of 10, he had called somebody smarter than him and explained it to them, and they probably gave him this out. Because Voldemort had a tendency to surround himself with really smart people and then try to get them to help him basically do manipulative things such as this. So he probably called somebody who was a psychologist and explained it, and they said, no, that's not what you do. And then, you know, they went back and forth like that. So then he comes back to me trying to tell me, oh, this isn't what I've done. And I'm looking at him like, and I let it go. And that's what most people do. They let it go, or they start to question themselves. Well, was that abuse? Well, maybe people do that. Well, I have done that before. And they start to justify it in their own mind. And then they're totally confused. An emotional abuser keeps you confused as best they can. And sometimes I think that we allow them to confuse us, because a lot of times people that are in these situations are not stupid. You know, they're not dumb people. But I think that they allow the other person to gaslight them. In some cases, because in some cases they feel like they don't want to make waves, or they don't want to make trouble, or they don't want to deal with the fact that they're in a relationship with somebody who's dangerous. So that's gaslighting. It's not a very difficult, term to understand. If you want to Google it, you can read more about it. There's pages and pages and pages of papers written on it. You can even go watch the 1938 film Gaslight if you want to get an idea of how that husband was doing it. But basically, it's an abuser's tool. And if you see someone doing it, or if somebody does it to you, that's one of your first clues that you're around a person who is emotionally, mentally, verbally, and could be even physically abusive. Because remember, if a person is abusive in other ways, sometimes they're abusive in all ways. It just depends. Some people are abusive in one way. Like Voldemort never hit me. Never touched, never struck me ever. But he'd be quick to try to manipulate me emotionally and mentally. And that is emotional abuse. So some of the times they have a forte with their abuse. They abuse in this kind of way, but not that kind of way. So it depends on the person. And some people abuse in every single way. There are no holds barred. So be very careful. If you think you're being gaslighted, talk to someone. Because another thing that these kinds of people do, they try to isolate you from telling other people what's going on. That's why a lot of abusers will not like your family. They will not like your best friend. And they'll find all these reasons why this person is this, that person is that. And sometimes they may even have good reasons why the person shouldn't be around you. But it's not because they're trying to protect you. It's because they're afraid you're going to tell people what they're doing. And they're going to be like, ooh, girl, you being gaslighted. Or, child, you got to stop messing with her because she's gaslighting you. She's emotionally abusing you. So a lot of times they'll try to keep you isolated. So if you think you're being emotionally abused, call one of those hotlines, one of those abuse hotlines. The 1-800 numbers are everywhere. Just Google it and call one of those hotlines and talk about the behavior and ask a professional if you're being gaslighted. Because those kinds of situations like that are what those hotlines and things are for. You'll have access to people, volunteers in some cases actually professionals who volunteer. And they can tell you, are you really being gaslighted? Are you really being emotionally abused? Or is this person fine and dandy and you are crazy? Like, which one is it really? Ask an outside source. And if you don't trust that source, ask several sources. All right, guys, they're outside making noise, so it's time for me to get going. If you would like a reading, please email me, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.